Okay, we're just gonna fire this up early, because why not? Because I don't want to stay on too late. We're just gonna paint for a little bit, and we're gonna talk, and we're gonna see how we go. Okay, so welcome to Play It Painted Live. Hope you guys are having a good Sunday evening. Here we go with another one of these. So tonight we're gonna be painting the Amazons of Themyscira. This is a metal kit from Night Models, kind of an older kit, but it's this is pretty fun. So we're just gonna go with that, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about gaming and my opinion on gaming rules. Okay, so but before we get into the whole rant thing, it's time to let's do our color blocking so you can see. Um, so we got the skin done on these models, and now we're going to do basically leather, steel, and gold. So it's going to be very simple. That's the the basics of the color scheme of these models. Whoa. So we're just going to go with that, and let me know if you have any questions, comments, or threats. As always, and we're just gonna get started. Starting a little bit early, which is actually technically a little bit late because my stream normally starts at 9 o'clock. And yes, I still have some hoarseness to my throat. I guess that's how dry it was on Friday or whatever. It's just annoying. Okay, so let's go ahead and so we're gonna hit this with a lot of gold because she has a lot of gold on her. Actually, I don't want to use that brush. I'm gonna use kind of a smaller workhorse style brush. And these are very good brushes. I've been using these lately. I need to actually order a few more. These are, so, Winsor & Newton are not getting any cheaper, and sometimes you just need a good workhorse brush. I really like this Blick Master Stroke. They're cheap brushes, but I find them to be very reliable and very good. So, all right. So let's paint Robin Wright's gold parts here. Uh-oh, I got a 3-year-old in here. Darius, I'm busy, buddy. I'll talk to you later. Go get your toys. I'll see you later. Love you, buddy. Thank you. Alright. I do love that kid. He's awesome. Okay, let's make sure I'm not doing anything wrong here. But it does look like most of her plate, like most of her armor and that stuff is all gold. She's pretty much all warm colors anyway. And I guess the more gold we have on her, the better. So let's just do it that way. Right, she's just gonna have a lot of gold on her. I love gold. Now, this is as far as the Night Models, the metal kits go, this is one of the least defensive metal kits, but those metal kits are really bad. Like the joins and the fits and all that stuff are pretty terrible. There's a lot of just crust and cleanup, and they never quite notch anything correctly. So you have to do all of that, right? Sometimes you like the old metal kits. I would use like plastic putty, almost like I was just sculpting with it. That's how bad it could get in spots. So this kit thankfully wasn't that bad, but the arms there's still a lot of gaps and stuff in the arms and things that you have to be mindful of. But I've built dozens and dozens of these night model metal kits, and lots of their resin kits as well. So I guess you just get kind of used to. They kind of have a, if any, I guess it's a lackadaisical attitude about how their things should fit. Sometimes they just flub a detail and they'll just write it out like, a good Heraldez level painter will fix this, and we expect all of our painters to be Heraldez level painters, so you should be totally fine. All right. I do appreciate her Masters of the Universe style hilt there on her sword. This is a fantastic model, though, I will say that. All right. So that's about as straightforward as it gets as far as blocking out. You know, most of her armor, it's going to be gold. She even has gold knee pad buried way back here. There we go. And then on the rest of these, it's mostly the greaves. Like this one here, she has gold on her hilt, but there's not much else gold on these models except for the greaves. And I realized nobody is here because I scheduled this feed to start in 1 minute as opposed to I've been on now for close to 10 minutes. Oh well, that's just how we roll sometimes, guys. I got stuff to do, man. Well, we are going to talk a little bit about game design. Something which I know nothing about, but I love to talk about because I'm a miniature gamer, and we're all backseat drivers. We're all Monday morning generals. It's one of the things that everybody loves about us miniature gamers is the fact that we can just be so damn annoying about having an opinion on games, and I definitely have an opinion on games. So we'll get to that in a minute. And there's a point behind it too. I am going to talk a little bit about an idea of mine that is currently in concept, and I just really only today really started putting ideas to paper on it. So we'll talk about that. Okay. And in order to properly talk about this, I actually have to begin this with, you guessed it, a rant. You have to get a rant in order for me to get going on an idea or to start discussing a topic. I know you guys live for my rants. My rants are great. You know, what do you mean? Of course you like my rants. Of course you like my rants. What are you talking about? No. All right. So they all have these like golden greaves. So that's cool. So we'll do that for now. Okay. And I can't do I won't launch into my rant until after we've started the, we got to get to a point where most stuff is drying, okay? So we're going to paint a couple of different colors here. I'm going to start with some wildwood as most of the leather bits on most of these models, okay? So wildwood, we're going to see a lot of wildwood on these models. Just realized I didn't even paint the hair yet on these models. Okay. Let's get a little wildwood there. And we've got a Shoryuken. Hey, what's up, David Moffat? Welcome to the feed, sir.
Are you sure you should do this?
Yeah, I'm gonna just stream for a little bit. Hey, kiddo, how are you feeling? You all right?
I'm fine.
You're fine. You just have some hives, huh? Yeah, that's kind of. The pre-rant painting only helps to build the anticipation. Hey, what's up, Blue Chessie? All right. Yeah, I'm gonna get this brown down, and then we'll get into it. I don't know if I'm gonna finish these tonight, but I probably will. We'll probably finish like some of them, maybe a lot of them. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. All right. Okay. It's kind of weird. So she has. Okay. Looks like I'm going to have to touch that up there because she has this weird. Just one little patch of leather there. And then the rest of it is steel. All right. What's up, Exelinfiltrate? Diving into contrast paints, which ones should I get and which ones should I avoid? As far as which ones you should get, it depends on what you're painting, what you plan on painting a lot. Do you have specific projects in mind that you want to paint or you want to tackle with contrast paints? I'll share with you some of my favorite ones. See, we're lucky we got a question. We got a question to halt the inevitable rant that's coming. I totally agree with what David Moffat just said, which is skip ultramarine. That is one of the worst offenders. Ultramarine blue does not behave like a contrast paint. Similarly, Dark Angels Green needs Dark Angels Green and Shyish Purple both need they are going to need to be thinned in order for them to actually give you any decent contrast appearance. So those are some other ones to be careful for or be careful of. Let's see. But for the most part, I like a lot of them. You could file Apothecary White in the difficult to understand category because it doesn't give you this like crazy apparent thing when you're using it. Although I do like Apothecary White, but I would say that's in a difficult to understand category. Similarly, the flesh tones are going to require a bit of practice. A lot of people just use the flesh tones as they use the flesh tones as washes, or I'll even just use it as it's really just a pre-shade for when I am going to do proper skin. It'll just count as a pre-shade for me. So I don't know if any of this information is helping or not, but that's what I would say. Some of the most versatile ones I would say are Basilicanum Gray is something that I use on just about everything. Basilicanum Gray, Skeleton Horde, those are super versatile and very useful colors. I'm a big fan of all of their yellows. So Iandin yellow, Nazdrag yellow, and I guess I would throw Agaros Dunes in there as kind of a yellow. Also very useful. Those are just very useful colors, and then most of the browns are quite good. Wildwood is one of my favorites, and a lot of people love snakebite leather because it's also just extremely versatile, very useful color. Gorgrunta fur is very nice. Cygor brown is another one of those that's just very opaque. So you might be surprised by Cygor brown because I do think Cygor brown is a good color still, but it is going to be a lot more opaque than the other colors. But yeah, Basilicanum Gray probably for me wins most versatile. Hey, what's up, Sean? Hey, Cameron. All right, these Chaos Cultists are going to start off with Agaros Dunes. Good. Yeah. I do like the skin tones, too. I really do. I like, specifically, I like Gilliman Flesh, but I also really like Fireslayer Flesh, too. But it's all within context. If you're going to paint a model and go, I'm going to put Gilliman Flesh down, and that is going to count as my base coat and my shade, and I'm going to walk away, maybe drop a highlight on it, that's going to take some practice before you can do that. Okay, they're not the most intuitive things to use. For example, I used Gilliman Flesh on these models as a base coat and shade. Maybe orcs in the future. Okay, well, orc flesh is fantastic. If you're doing orcs in the future, orc flesh is fantastic. Creed camo is very good. I wouldn't use it for orc flesh, but it's also very good. Let's see. And then, I really like, if you're going to go into the blue ranges, not that you would for orcs. Actually, let's stick with orc colors. Obviously, both of the yellows that I just mentioned, Nazdrag yellow and Iandin yellow, very good for Bad Moon orcs. Then you've got reds, so between the two, I find Flesh Terror red a little more versatile than Blood Angels red, but both are also very good. Jeez. I feel like I've just given you a commercial for all the contrast paints because I've tried all the contrast paints. I've found useful scenarios for most of them, except for, like was pointed out, Ultramarines blue. You can use, this is extremely corner case, but you could use Ultramarines blue shaded down with Griffhound Gray, I think it's called, or Griff Charger Gray, and you can get brand new denim. Okay, I'm really reaching, really reaching. So let's say you could only buy 5 contrast paints, and you're going to work on orcs, right? We know you're going to work on orcs. Well, you should take, in my opinion, you should take. Oh, and you should probably also look at what clan you're working on, right? Because if I tell you to take Iandin yellow and you're not planning on doing any bad moons, well, that's a waste of money, right? So I would take Nazdrag yellow in any case, just because it's so useful. But Iandin yellow I might save for, if I'm specifically doing bad moon orcs. Okay. She's got a lot of leather on her. Getting there. We're getting there. So let's talk about the 5 that you might get if you're painting orcs. Okay, let's just pick 5. Orc flesh, absolutely, right? That's a guaranteed. And then Basilicanum gray, again, very super useful. I would go Nasdrag yellow. I don't, there's so many. Black Templar is good if you're going to do Goths. Geez, we're already at 5. And then I guess the red, the red would be Flesh Terror's red. There's 5 right there. Those are going to be very useful if you're doing orcs. I'm a little frustrated that I couldn't fit a brown in there. So let's say you're not doing anything really goldish. Let's kick Nasdrag yellow out, and probably your overall most useful brown is going to be snakebite leather. There you go. There you go. Hope that helps. There you go. I've heard Ultramarines blue is only useful for denim. I better start a Canadian tuxedo army. Yes. Canadian tuxedos. I love that humor. That's super good. Oh man, what did I do with Wildwood? Okay. I'm going to do Wildwood on this one. But yeah. Here's the thing about contrast paints is contrast paints I do not consider contrast paints good for new painters. Okay, they're not good for new painters. They're good for semi-experienced painters and experienced painters looking to production paint, looking to batch paint, looking to complete projects. And the reason why I don't say they're for new painters is because they are not very forgiving when all is said and done, right? If I screw up real bad here and I get this Wildwood in a spot that I really don't want it to land in, let's say I paint over that leg, it can be very difficult to fix that, without a lot of washing. And honestly, you're better off just going back and touching it up, right? So if you're a new painter and you're not very accurate with your brush, then contrast paints, you're going to find contrast paints to be very unforgiving. Now, the exception to that, and this is what I actually have successfully taught some new painters, is that if you really insist on using contrast paints and learning with contrast paints, again, I don't recommend this to anybody, but I've had to teach somebody this, that you may want to think about painting your models in using a different mindset, okay? And what I mean by that is you're going to paint your model with, instead of going from the inside of the model to the out, which is, miniature painting 101, right? You start with the innermost parts of the model, so the skin, the face, then you start working your way to clothing, and then outer clothing, and then armor, right? That's miniature painting 101. If you're really painting contrast paints and you're not all that accurate and you're not all that sure of yourself, but you're really going to make yourself do it, then the best way to look at the miniature is start with the lightest contrast paints and then work your way to the darker ones, because the darker contrast paints will at least help cover up the mistakes that you've made with the light contrast paints. You're also going to want to carry, a pot and brush version of your Wraithbone, or what's the other color? Gray Seer. Since I don't use those Citadel colors, I use like Vallejo and Reaper equivalents. But you're going to want those because when you do make mistakes with contrast paints, you have to touch up with those other colors and then go back with the contrast paints. Let's see. Contrast paints are production batch. Yeah. Yes. You have to think in CMYK when using contrast paints like a printer. I don't know what CYMK is, Cameron. I will totally take your word for it. I'm just going to agree with you. I'm not versed in the printer world there. But I'm assuming that you do mean think in terms of addressing light to dark. And even in like some small way, I am doing that with these models here. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. Let's do her cloak while I'm waiting here. I kind of want this to be kind of a sand color. I'm a big fan of Dirty Bone. I like to dirty bone whenever I can. Uh, it's a bad joke. I know. I still like it. Don't judge me. I'm gonna have my dirty bone. You're gonna be fine with it. Fun fact. I was painting this the other day. This is Prism Red Eyes from Aristea, and she's so cool. You can see the fiery. I did like fire crystal kind of deal on her, and I was recording some of it, and I was like, "Dirty Bone, let's figure out a way to do Dirty Bone in there," because you can literally fit Dirty Bone into almost any model that you're painting, because it's just such a good color. Oh, I missed a thing. Oops. All right, let's get to that real quick. Cyan, magenta, yellow, black, ink on white paper. Okay, this is kind of annoying. Getting back here is always annoying with a brush, but we can do it. We can do it. And yes, I am using Dirty Bone on her cloak. Because why wouldn't you? Dirty Bone is a fantastic color, and we just thought it was funny the other day when they were asking me at Comic Quest about Reaper paints, and they're like, "What's a Reaper paint you want?" I said, immediately Dirty Bone. Dirty Bone is very, and I had to defend it to Don, and he's like, "That sounds really," and Yvonne's in the back giggling. He's like, "That sounds really unusual." I'm like, "Yeah, Dirty Bone's a great color. You could use it on anything. It's you just fit it right in. You would be surprised when you're gonna run into a Dirty Bone." I love Dirty Bone. It's a good color. It really is. All right. But it looks like I missed a couple of these shoulder pads here. So let's get those. Design term, because you have to use a white base for contrast paint. Think of the contrast paint as an ink. I'll get to a darker tone. Yeah, it's very much what it is. Contrast paint is actually more like we're describing the same thing. Miniature painters would look at contrast paint as more of like a hybrid glaze wash. Okay. Can you believe that we've gotten this far into the broadcast and have not had any death by snoo jokes as I'm painting Amazons? I'm very proud of all of us, folks. We did not do any death by snoo. Okay. All right, you ready to badmouth a game? Let's badmouth a game, okay? And then let's talk about a theoretical game. While all this stuff is drying, let's do that. Okay, so the other day, I picked up. Where'd that thing go? Where'd it go? The other day, I picked up a copy of this at the LGS. This is Infinity Code 1, the Infinity Code 1 rulebook, okay? And I was excited about this because Infinity is that game that I really, really, really love the miniatures for. I love the setting for. There's just so many. I love the aesthetic of the game. And, and I want to play in something. I'm the niche game guy. You guys know that. But I do want to play in something at least remotely closer to mainstream than some of the places that I go in my gaming path, right? Oh boy, here we go. So I picked this up. Infinity Code 1. Code 1 is it's being touted as Infinity Light, right? The whole idea of that is let's take the Infinity rule set, let's simplify it, let's see if we could get some fresh blood into Infinity, and then graduate those people from Infinity from Code 1 into the main game. All right? And I know I shook my camera. I love that theory in paper. I love that theory so much that's what I was jumping up and down about with Guild Ball right before they canceled it. Because Guild Ball and Infinity have a very similar thing, very high skill ceiling. The games can get very intricate in points, and new players are going to be extremely intimidated by that. It's indicative of a lot of miniature games as a whole, right? So I love this idea. I love the theory of let's have a gateway version of our flagship game to get people into the game. And I'm like, yes, I have wanted to like Infinity for at least 10 years. Probably, actually at least 10 years. I tried Infinity before I tried Malifaux, guys. I really wanted to like, Infinity. So I pick up this book, and here we go. I don't have enough space here, but I'm flipping through the book, and okay. Oh, look. Get some fluff. Cool. What? Fluff is over. Fluff. Okay, that was 9 pages of fluff. And, oh dear. Oh dear. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh no. No. Oh no, stop. No. No, stop. No, not equipment. There's only 4 scenarios. What? Ah! Alright, so 99 pages later. 99 pages. I'm sorry. I mean, if you're going to go reference chart, 100 pages. 100 pages. 9 of those pages were fluff. Should I just end the rant there? Okay? That was supposed to be the gateway to Infinity. Oh, hey guys, here's the lighter version of Infinity. Are you ready? I'll meet you at the page 100 when you're... Are you kidding me? What? Okay, and I have tried Infinity on 4 different occasions, okay? And if you like Infinity, then I know you're going to be mad at me. You're going to want to defend your game. I get that, okay? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Infinity, but let's look at that fact right there. Like, we're going to get new players into the game 100 pages later. There you go. So here's Infinity, though, okay? Here's Infinity. Let's pretend this is a wall, and let's pretend this is a wall, okay? Because they tell you this in Code 1, like all day in Code 1. Right, here's a wall here, and there's a wall there, right? And you're like, oh man. And you got, let's grab I need a couple of victims here. I don't really have any models out, do I? I have Chibi. Yes. Yes, chibi. Okay. So, all right. So here's one model in infinity, right? And then actually I kind of did it wrong. There's one model there, and there's one model here, right? And okay, and you're gonna shoot at each other, right? And in infinity, and it's like, okay, we're gonna shoot each other. Okay, so let's keep track of the player decisions. Okay, so this player down here, Musashi. My name is Musashi. Fires at E Honda. So he's gonna fire at E Honda. Okay, there's one player decision. Okay, all right. Let's determine range. Let's determine line of sight. Let's determine equipment. Let's determine skills. Let's determine how many dice are going to roll. Let's roll those dice. Let's determine ARO. Well, before we roll the dice, let's determine ARO. Let's determine sequence of skills. Oh, wait, we made that simpler. Now we're going to roll those dice. Now we're going to interpret those dice. Now we're going to roll for. Now we're going to check other equipment to see, what kind of ammo was being used. And now we're going to roll and see for wound, and we'll check the right. Wait. So, and I went through that extremely fast. Okay? There was one decision. There was one player decision made. I mean, I guess you could say that the ARO may have been a second player decision, but did you see how much you had to go through to resolve one decision? And if you were to look at gaming, in terms of the time that you're going to spend playing that game, right? This is me just trying to be as optimal with my time as possible, right? So if this is your 90 minutes to play a game, right? You want the majority of that 90 minutes to be decisions that you're making, right? There's going to be some time spent on setup, right? There may be some time spent on, just getting your, determining your scenario and that kind of thing. And then there's going to be a lot of time spent on working out the mechanics of those decisions, right? So this is the mechanics. This right here is the mechanics of those decisions. You want the bulk of that 90 minutes to be the player making those decisions, right? And you want the culmination of those decisions and random number generation and list building. You want this to dominate your 90 minutes of gaming. You want your gaming to be you gaming. That's a good game is you are making decisions a lot, and you're making critical, timely decisions. But the time it takes to resolve those decisions doesn't need to be big. It needs to be small, because you need more time to make more decisions. I feel similarly with setup and other things too. But sometimes sometimes you're gonna, like, in infinity tables tend to be chock full of terrain. It's actually kind of cool. That's actually kind of cool. But so setup can be big too. But at the end of the day, when it's taking that long to make, to execute the mechanics of a decision, then you're going to come to find that your game is spent mostly on working out those mechanics than it is making those decisions. And that's the issue I have with older games or outdated games, is that this really needs to be the gist of what you are doing when you're playing a head-to-head miniatures game. My opinion only, guys. My opinion only. I've got 90 minutes to get on a table, play a game against you. I want to know how good is the decision making I can make based on what What's up, Bloodshot Movies? You're a guru. I want to make. I want the culmination of that game. I want the result of that game to be largely based on, the ability to make very good time critical decisions based on the state of the table, based on the models I have in play, based on the timing in the game, based on the objective. Right? I don't want it to be, oh, I'm gonna, hey, hey you, I'm gonna shoot you with this arrow. Oh, okay. What kind of arrow? What? How far away from you am I? What? Well, what other skills did I take? What kind of armor am I wearing? What? Uh, is there smoke on the table? Well, maybe. What kind of smoke? I don't know. Well, I'm wearing a visor. What kind of visor? It just needs to be. There's got to be a faster way to resolve this. Okay, there are dozens, and literally infinity for all you guys out there. Literally infinity is very few. There are very few different types of interactions. The bulk of interaction in infinity is player decides to shoot at another player. There's player decides to melee another player, right? There's player decides to hack another player. There's stuff like that. But you see what I'm getting at. There's too much time spent here. Not enough, and you're just losing all of this time. And that's the issue I have with it. It's like holding in your piss for 5 minutes every time you need to pee. You're like, I need to pee. Okay, it's only a 30-minute trip to the restroom. Like, that's the issue I had with Infinity. Because it'd be like, I'd play a game of Infinity. Like, oh man, my models are so cool. I'm gonna put them on the table. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna just put them. Hey, by the way, Bloodshot Movies. We're gonna talk about my idea for a game idea. I'm calling Guild Ball Light. Okay. Anyways, so cool. I got my Infinity army on the board. It's so awesome, man. Here we go. We're going down the table. Oh man, I made it around this corner. I'm gonna shoot at you, and then almost 5 minutes later, I took a wound. You know what I mean? What? You for that? That is the bulk of your game. That's the issue I have with that game. Modern games need to be. I'm shooting it. A lot of games handle them very differently. In other words, like Malifaux, for example. Shooting this bow is a very specific action. It has a built-in target number. It has a built-in resist. It has built-in triggers. And shooting this bow doesn't just result in, ow, I took a wound. They can result in up to 4 or 5, 6 different things because they got your trigger off. Because she had a defensive trigger. There's all kinds of stuff. But note that in a Malifaux interaction, there could be 4, 5, 6 decisions that have to be made within that one action. Okay? So therefore, even though Malifaux, one of the most complicated, intricate interface systems out in miniature gaming, still involves a lot of decision making, right? When you're talking about Guild Ball is just you make a decision. This player is within range of this player. They're going to do an attack. This player is going to go over here and do a kick. All of those things are known. If you're going to talk about Wrath of Kings, even better, right? Wrath of Kings. Model A interacts with Model B. There's already a defensive chart. We know how many dice there are roll. You just roll the dice. There's no argument, and you just resolve what's on the sheet. There does not need to be, and I get it. Infinity players love tech, and they love to think about, oh, well, I'm equipped with this. This is the type of weapon, because there's an appeal there, and I see that. There's people that really get interested in almost the engineering of the combat that's occurring, right? And they want to, when the bullet comes out of the gun, they want to push. They want to study the ballistics of that bullet. They want to study the trajectory of that bullet. They want to study the impact of that bullet and how far it goes. And they want to see, how much damage does that bullet actually do when it strikes a target. Okay? And if you like that sort of thing, you're going to love Infinity. Right? Because Infinity is going to deal with that all the time. What kind of visor are you wearing? What kind of martial artist are you? How much journalism experience do you have? That's what Infinity is going to do, and that's what they want. But okay, I'm going to finish reading your comment. Sorry, Bloodshot Movies. My problem with Guild Ball got to too much learning outside the game. When things change so much between seasons, it's too much to learn for a casual player. Okay, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And here's the thing. Miniature games, what they do is they trap us, okay? When you get good at a miniature game, look at here's Vet Captain Peck for you farmers players. But miniature gamers go like this. So you have, and Guild Ball was particularly guilty of this. So you have, right? So these are all the people interested in your game, and it's like, oh, we're going to get better, and the good players get better and better, and they get to this point because the game is very balanced. It gets to a point where it's like, oh man, these two players are playing the most. They're also very high skill. These three players on the outside, they don't have a chance against these two players. Am I saying that's wrong? Not necessarily. Okay? I'm saying it's bad for a miniature company to design a game like that where it's actually balanced, because these players will always make better decisions. These players have experience. They understand. They've been, they stuck with it all 4 seasons. They are going to beat these 3 players out here probably 99 out of 100 times. And these 3 players are going to be like, these are the players in our area. We're no longer interested in this game. Okay? And we get stuck in here. And so it comes down to these 2 players are like, how do we save Guild Ball? I know. Let's make it even more competitive. Right? They cannot see outside their bubble. They don't understand what these 3 players went through. Or, and this was actually admitted to me by somebody who plays Guild Ball and is extremely good, they want that balance system because it gives them the ultimate in miniature gaming competition. And I feel that in my soul, okay? Because Guild Ball was really the only game that I felt I could play competitively and not have like a terribly guilty conscience about what I was, because the game was designed for that. The game is pure. How good are you really? Have you kept up with all the information? They know all the stats and weakness, right? It's like real sport. How often are you going to train? How often are you getting in your reps? We talk about that in Guild Ball. You got to get the reps in, dude. You can't just build a good. Everybody on the internet tells you what a good team is, and you field it, and you feel like you're going to win. Guild Ball doesn't work like that at all, right? I can hand a non-Guild Ball player the team that I won the last tournament with, and they would lose 99 out of 100 games. They think that those players are trash. I could hand a good player who doesn't play Alchemist the team that I won the tournament with, and they would lose probably 45 out of 100 games, right? Well, here's the thing. So, and I don't know Bloodshot Movies, I think as far as memorizing stats, I think Guild Ball, while it is guilty of that to some degree, I think it's less guilty, though, than a lot of games, frankly. A lot of the more modern games. Malifaux is way more guilty of that than Guild Ball is. Malifaux is, if you don't know that you should not be attacking Colette, you're just going to have a bad game the entire time, right? And there are 64 different playstyles out there. So anyways, let's I'm going to bring the chibis back in here in a minute, but first we're going to do a little Basilicanum Grey, and you guys are going to talk to me about, you're going to talk to me about, we'll call it the casual struggle with Guild Ball. And it literally is a casual struggle with Guild Ball. You can't get around that. That's why we entered Season 3. It was a major turnoff. Yeah, it's Guild Ball. If you're going to play it and you're going to enjoy it, you need to, at a minimum, you need to be playing at least once a month. And that can be very difficult for people. That can be very difficult for some people with their schedules and everything. It's going to be very hard to enjoy a game that you really, it's like if you're, if you got into racquetball and you're in a racquetball club and there's a bunch of people at that racquetball club, but they're at that club, every week. You show up once every 2 months to get in a game, and it's always those guys there, you're not going to be very good at racquetball compared to them. They've, and the wrong question there is to ask, is it fair? Because it's fair. That's fair, right? If you don't think that's fair, I'll put it to you this way. How often do you go to work? Right? Who's do you if you work longer hours, should you be making more money? All right? So it's not a question of fair. It's a question of it's a question of accessibility, really. It's a question of how accessible is this game, not how fair it is. Because the game is very fair. If you're playing every week, you don't want to lose to some guy who plays every 2 months because you got a shitty dice roll, right? You don't want to lose to a guy that plays every 2 months because he copied a list off of the internet that everyone told him was good, right? So the game is very fair. It's just not very accessible. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. Because it's a very important distinction to make. The game is very fair. It's just not very accessible. Right? And it's like I said, when you make an extremely balanced game, that extremely balanced game is going to reward the people who put in all the experience, all the time and the experience in. It's just, unfortunately, you're going to have a very difficult time getting new players in, because new players in that sort of system are not going to do are not going to do very well, right? And there he goes. You stop. All right. But so my whole clamoring about that was, I feel like, Steamforged could have been done just as well to have left Guild Ball alone and said, you know what, Guild Ball is our competitive, hardcore gaming experience. It's definitely not for everybody, but for the people whom it is for, it is the ultimate in competitive miniature gaming sport. And I feel very strongly about that, right? As somebody who has played probably, I want to say conservatively, 24 or more different miniature gaming systems, if I was asked, if it was like, there's two miniature gamers and they're having a pissing contest and they really want to figure out who is better at tactics, who is better at critical decision making, who is the better miniature gamer, I would tell those two guys that you guys need to play a game of Guild Ball, because that's going to decide it, right? These other games rely too much on random number generation. Your result is going to be far less reliable than it is if you sit down and play Guild Ball and really decide, who's the best in the world, right? I really do feel strongly that is true about Guild Ball. That makes Guild Ball not a very good, accessible miniature game with wide appeal. It's almost like, and we've talked about this on the feed a few times now. If there was a way to tier players so that, new players are sticking with new players and, top tier players are sticking with top tier players, that's one thing. But miniature games, you just can't do that. You don't have a big enough player base to do that. So the idea was, let's make a Guild Ball Lite. And what should Guild Ball Lite be, in my opinion? Guild Ball Lite should introduce you to some of the most basic concepts of Guild Ball. It should give you an idea of how the tactical sport of Guild Ball is played. It should give you an idea of how the different teams function. It should give you a very basic idea of core mechanics such as kicking the ball, passing, scoring goals, positioning your player. But it should go very fast, and like I said earlier, it needs to have a lot of time for you to make decisions. The majority of the time, yes, even a casual game like Guild Ball Lite, you should be able to make decisions and execute them very quickly. Okay? But it should also have enough of that RNG such that, a new player will still have a 1, we'll call it a 1 in 20 chance, so a 5% chance of beating an extremely powerful player. Right now, in Guild Ball, a brand new player has about a 1 in, I want to say, 300 or 400 chance of beating an experienced player. They are just not good odds. Let me get one more color here, and we'll talk about Guild Ball Lite. And so today I took a pass at what I would want, what kind of changes I would want to see in Guild Ball Lite. And you may or may not agree with the changes I'm about to talk about, and that's fine. That's one of the reasons why I want to talk about it tonight, because I think it could be very interesting to hear from you guys, because right now we don't have Sean is the most experienced Guild Ball player in chat, and we've got some other folks that played previous editions, and we have some, like, we'll say more casual players for Guild Ball. So it'd be very interesting to hear from this group. Okay, so Guild Ball Lite, as I see it, is a 4 to 5 model per side game, played on the 2x2 version of the pitch, so much smaller. Game time should run about 30 to 45 minutes, and you're going to play games to 9 points, okay, on a different scoring system. So scoring a goal is worth 3 victory points. So you have to score, 9. So if you're playing a scoring team, it is very similar to a regular game of Guild Ball. You're looking for 3 goals. Takeouts, which I'll explain as well. Takeouts will earn you 2 victory points, just like they do standard Guild Ball. And ringouts, which is a separate thing than takeouts, will earn you 1 victory point. Okay, so if you're a bashy team, you have a number of different ways to score your takeouts. Okay, so let's get into it. So I guess we might as well just start there. Well, why is that different? Well, in my proposed, or my idea for Guild Ball Lite, one thing that you do not have in Guild Ball Lite is you do not have wounds. I know it sounds really weird, but you don't have wounds. Okay, you're playing on a 2x2 pitch, and here's your bashy guy, right? So you can tell that's a bashy guy. There's a goal scoring character. I love chibi. This is another reason I want to do Guild Ball Lite, because I just love the idea of these little chibi things kicking the ball around, wee, moving around the board, that kind of thing. And right, who doesn't like a chicken warrior? So like I said, you're playing on a 2x2 board, and in order to score a normal takeout, a bashy player will have to knock down a player and then cause a second application of the knockdown result. That results in a takeout. Okay, so your playbooks are not going to have wounds on them. They're going to a bashy player's playbook. Oh, by the way, also you're only rolling 5 max dice. The reason why I do that is because we try to keep the math as simple as possible, right? That way a new player knows no matter what, they should, at the very most, they should only be holding 5 dice in their hand. That also means that most playbooks are only going to run about 5 deep, right? So it's a lot easier, it's a lot faster to process information and get things quicker. There's also not going to be the back of a player card. Like, forget it, you just don't have a back. Okay, the characters, everything you need to know about the character is going to be on the front of that card, and it's all going to be very simple. One of the things they don't have is they don't have wounds. Now, you might be asking, okay, but how do you do brewers? How do you do big men? How do you do stuff like tough hide and characters that are meant to be tanky? Well, basically, what's going to happen with those characters is that they have a different rule that means, if a character is on a 40 mil base, you would have to apply the knockdown result 3 times, and if they are on a 50 mil base, you would have to apply the knockdown 4 times. So it could be very hard to get rid of a big guy. It's going to be easier to ring them out, right? So if a typical Bashy player's playbook would be like push, double push, right? Push, double push. You may have a knockdown out here at the end of their playbook, or tackle and then a knockdown. Well, it's going to be very hard to get out to that 4th result twice. Again, you're only rolling 5 dice. So even if you charge and you get the bonus for charging, all of those, all the bonuses that takes you past 5 dice really just give you rerolls. So it can be very hard to get out to those results, right? So the other thing is, so this character, the Bashy character, is actually going to spend more time ringing out your character. It's because it's going to be easier. You're on a 2x2 board. There are fewer models in play. Another thing to point out too is that there isn't going to be in Guild Ball Light. Again, my theoretical bullshit game. No, Guild Ball Light is not community driven. This is 100% me. This is just me thinking up, oh man, I want to play, because I want to teach, there are a lot of people that I have fun gaming with, right? And I would never teach them Guild Ball. As much as I love them and I love gaming with them, I wouldn't teach them Guild Ball because that would be the most awful experience for them, and they'd probably quit miniature gaming forever. But I do want them to play something where they're kicking a ball around, where they're putting templates down, where they're having a lot of fun, and they have fun, a very fun, fast game that can be very casual, but they're secretly learning some stuff from Guild Ball, right? Secretly, okay? Not, hey, it's 100 pay. Not that, okay? Secretly learning Guild Ball basics. So here's some other things too. You're not, you can disengage from models, right? You're not going to take parting blows from models, but you're going to pay a tax in terms of leaving their engagement range, and you're going to pay a tax in your movement. Movements in this game are going to be very high, okay? So imagine adding, for each character card that you have today, add +2 to the charge run speed of that model. So that means a lot of models that have 8-inch charge run speed are going to be moving 10 inches, right? And there's no disengage other than that movement tax. The whole idea is there is one thing that is awful for casual players in current Guild Ball is, I've got this Bashy team. Oh, I'm going to kick this ball. No, we're going to do this and hump you till you die, basically, right? That you do this nonsense, and you're like, oh, thanks, man, good game. And then, oh, I'm coming back on the board. Oh, you can't leave combat with us again. You're gonna die. Right? That's not a very fun experience for a new player. So the game needs to be more fluid. You need to be able to go, oh crap, I'm leaving 2 players' melee zones. I'm going to lose 4 inches off of my final movement. So I can get away, I just can't go that far. Likewise, if you're working on somebody and trying to push them off the pitch, by the way, all pushes have the knockback rule. So you would push, right, until they're off the board. And all players have the put me back in coach. So they're all coming back in as soon as they get out. You score the point, they come back in at their goal line. So you see what this is doing? The idea here is that the game stays in a constantly fluid state. There is no trudging down and just like sitting in the middle of the board and forcing the other player to just come feed you guys, right? Because I don't know if I've watched a lot of competitive Guild Ball. A lot of competitive Guild Ball. I've watched all the World Team Championships. I've watched the Guild Ball World Championships. I've watched all the UK Finals, UK Nationals. Basically anything on YouTube I've watched. I watch a lot of Guild Ball. And it's like what they were talking about is this very conservative style that dominates, that is absolutely excruciating for casual players. Excruciating, right? The guy who won the UK Nationals, he played a Corker team, so he played Brewers, and all he did, this is his goalpost, right? All he did was he just parked his team right there. Just bam. Just did that. What are you going to do, buddy? What are you going to do? And every other team had to just feed him players. And he won the entire UK National, humping his own goalpost. Okay? Is it a valid strategy? Yes. Does it kind of make you a dick? Yeah. Is it a good gaming experience? If I were to walk into a store, like think about, some of the most chill people you know in your life, right? Pick that person. And I walk up to that person and be like, hey man, you want to learn a game called Guild Ball? Oh yeah, man, I heard it's cool. You get to kick goals. You're running around this field. It's like playing soccer, right? Kinda. And you put this team down. You're like, okay, all right, soccer boy. Come on, come kick a goal. That guy would never play Guild Ball ever again. All right? Because think about this. Once this guy gets in here, where's his decision making? Right? Where's this? It's gone. That guy's just going to sit there. He's going to get beat down. He's going to be trapped for a whole turn. And his decision making is out the window. And, 99 rulebook pages later, he's not having any more fun. All right? So Guild Ball Lite needs to be very fluid. And you need to be able to, and you want to score goals. So, like I said, you're going to stick 2 inches onto the max move for each player. There is no more run charge. There's just your movement. You can charge, but overall you just have your movement. So you're going to be able to move around the board more. But the downside is all of the kick ranges are going to be reduced by 2. Okay, so if you have a 6-inch kick, you're a pretty good player in Guild Ball Lite, right? Because 6 inches away on a 2-foot board, that's a pretty, everybody has a pretty deep goal threat. So think about that. It's a very fluid game where people are going to be moving around the board. It's almost like ice skating, right? They're going to be skating around the board a lot, and you're going to be like punch, 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 push, punch, punch, knock down, punch, 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 right? But that's the goal. It's going to be a fluid. The idea is for it to be a fluid game with a lot of decisions, and a lot of action, but over very fast. Okay, that's what we're talking about. That's Guild Ball Lite, as I see it. It needs to be. Miniature gaming has to have a pace to it. When you're playing, the average miniature gamer. And I've been learning this lesson very slowly. But the average miniature gamer does not have the type of experience I have. Meaning, for me, like a typical week in my life, to make all you guys jealous, is I get a new crew. Oh man, it's my new crew. So cool. I paint and finish that crew the same week. Okay, we're good. I'm not even going to finish these tonight. Because I'm a hypocrite. Okay, I finished my crew. So cool. Then during the week, I can go find a game. And we're going to go play my new crew. And I might play it that week. I might play it twice that week. I might play it that week and play it that weekend. Okay? I get lots of reps in. I get lots of fun decision time. I get lots of painting, and I get the best parts of what I consider to be the best parts of the miniature gaming experience more frequently than the average miniature gamer does. Okay? The average miniature gamer, they get their crew. Okay, I'll get to this. 2 weeks later. All right, we're almost done with these 2 models. We're getting there, guys. 2 weeks after that. Okay, one more model to get to. A week after that. Okay, we did it. We did it. 3 weeks after that. Okay, we got it on the board. You see what I'm saying? They don't get the type of like rapid exposure to gaming that I get. Okay? So when they get on that board, it better freaking count, right? When they play they're like, oh, finally painted my Guild Ball team. And then, they get on the board and it's like, hey, Gangbang Central, by all the veteran players, here you go. You suck, newbie. There you go. Good job. Thanks for spending 4 weeks painting your order team. Just smashed it into pieces. Thanks, buddy. They're not gonna play that game. Instead, like I said, a very fluid game where they're done, we'll say on the outside, 45, 60 minutes. Well, they still have 3 hours left in their evening. Even if they had a bad time, they'd be like, well, at least, let's rack them back up. Let's play again. Right? Hopefully they had a good time. Hopefully the rules are designed such that they get to actually accomplish something. Right? They kick a model off the board. They score a goal. They get on a 9-point system with the way I broke down the scoring. There are all kinds of new pathways for you to win a game. And again, you don't have the crazy back of the card stuff that that you guys were talking about, where you have to learn all these things. Model's rules are going to be very simple, and the base size is going to count for things, right? So, and you don't have to track wounds. You're not sitting there playing secretary for the other player while they go. That's something I noticed about War Machine, right? War Machine. All right, my turn to go. Okay, you sit there and take notes of every single box. You have to check every box of damage I do, right? Just sit there, take dictation for me. Here we go. You know what I mean? Can you make it solo co-op? That's a great question, David. You probably could. But you can see, I mean, for you guys that have played Guild Ball, you can see where we've made changes to the game to make it a little bit more random and a lot more fluid and a lot faster. That's all you really need to do. Maybe all my ideas suck, but the concept and the goal of those ideas, I think, are good goals if you really wanted to do that with Guild Ball. And I think that you could really make something really fun. And I also think that, if we had some talented people that could do art for Chibi, and, we 3D printed some mock-ups of some of the players and stuff. I mean, there's already 2x2 pitches that exist. Just take any training pitch that's out there. There's also, we would also make terrain rules totally optional. Terrain rules would be totally optional. Both players could decide if they wanted to use terrain, but the game would be designed largely in the absence of terrain to make sure that, not even so much to make sure that it's totally balanced, because I just proved how bad it can be if you perfectly balance a game. Not really to demonstrate that, but really just to get players into action faster. Right? If that was the goal of your miniature game, to get you into the action faster, to get you to make decisions faster, and to get the resolutions of those decisions to occur much faster, you're going to end up, in my opinion, with a much better overall gaming experience. You're going to end up with um, something that works better than what we have today. Miniature gaming today is a slog, and some people love the slog. Some people, right? The same person, bear it in mind. I was just bitching about how long it takes in Infinity for one model to shoot at another model, but I love Guild Ball, and I love the fully competitive, fully intricate aspect of it. But I also understand that that is very much an acquired taste, and that is, it's not just an acquired taste, it's a niche taste. Not everyone's going to like that. Not everyone would like Guild Ball Light, namely Guild Ball players. They would hate Guild Ball. Well, I don't know. I think some Guild Ball players that like, were like, yeah, I'd love to have like a little space filler in between games of Guild Ball. It's like, you know what? Octave, not really feeling like playing a big old long messy game of Guild Ball. Break out them chibis, man. Let's play that. Right? I could totally see that happening. But that's the idea there, is that you could play Guild Ball Light, enjoy Guild Ball Light, and then at some point, or not, doesn't have to be, you might enjoy playing Guild Ball Light for the rest of your days. It might just be a game that you carry, very light game that you carry in your bag. I'm also a big fan of that, by the way. I love highly portable games. So, it's one of my big initial attractions to Rumble Slam was just how portable that game is. I love portable games. Relic Blade, another one, very fun, very portable game. So I just think that your miniature gaming experience, I think that it could be better. It could be more optimal. You think the no wounds thing would work in normal Guild Ball? It might. But like, imagine how quickly your characters refresh. I also looked at, like, okay, so burning, for example, still does the -2/-2 move, right? It does not do any damage to you though. Poison is basically a half state for knockdown. So if you're poisoned, so poison is actually particularly strong against big base models, because if you stack the right combination of poison and knockdown, you can take out a big base model with fewer actions than you would normally. I don't know if any of that's making sense. And similarly with bleed. But you get the idea behind it, right? You get, like, you want a super fluid game. You want a super fluid, super fast game. People lining up a kick template is super fun for a new player. Think about a player that's never seen or played Guild Ball before. You're like, oh, you're going to kick the ball? Cool, let's figure out where it goes. And you put the little kick template down, right? That's really fun. They'd be like, oh, that's cool, there's a thing. Oh, look, it bounces, in the air. It's thrown in. Now you put the circular template down. Like, that's very cool too. It can be very fun, just kind of teaching people how to use widgets and bounce their, run their models around the pitch. That could be very fun. And so Guild Ball doesn't need to, Guild Ball Light does not need to be this big, heavy, serious competition thing. It could be a bunch of little kids with giant heads pushing each other off the peewee field and, enjoying a game of soccer, basically. Sorry, Euros, mob football. We could call it child mob football. If that makes you feel any better. So, anyways, that's what I had for most of my. That was most of my rant for tonight, guys. I wanted to give you some idea of what's going on in my brain right now, in terms of, if I wanted to make that gateway Guild Ball game, and I wanted to make this super fun, super light game that secretly is teaching you stuff about Guild Ball. Because don't forget, kick mechanics still intact, momentum still intact, influence still intact, right? You're still going to learn a lot of the fundamental stuff about Guild Ball. And one of the best fundamental things you're going to learn about Guild Ball is your winning game plan, because you still have to formulate that if you want to be, reasonably good at Guild Ball Light. You have to understand, oh, this is my BD player. This is where on the field I really want them to operate. This is how to line up a goal. You still have to do that. Let's see. No removal models in the game at all. I don't know. I'd have to think. Yeah, here's the thing. It's not no removal, because they are coming off the pitch. They're just coming right back on, on the far side of their own thing. That's mainly done. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it makes it so that if you're a goal scoring team, that it's, and you think you have a goal 2 activations away, you would be dumb to take out a player, right? You'd be dumb to take out a player at that point. It also means that, if you're on the other side of the beatdown stick, that you're still going to get your full activations that turn, right? You're still, no matter what, you will still have all the activations for all of your models every turn, right? That means no negative play experience around, oh man, he did 1 activation, and I've done this to people before. Sorry, Sean, if I've done this to you. But like in Guild Ball, if you have things lined up and you have, I don't know, Vet Cat or say Cooks, and you kill 3 of the guy's players as the first activation of that turn, well, that's pretty shitty. Right? So I do think that the having your player come back in immediately, I think that's more of a casual thing. Probably you've had that Corker D-bag rethink his strategy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying these ideas are perfect and they're set in stone. It's the reason why. That's the reason why we're talking about them tonight, because I think that I don't know. I feel like there is some potential here to maybe make something cool, and it starts off as a homebrew, but if we really like it, maybe we put a little bit more work behind it. Print a few models, play it. Just play this weird alternate version of Guild Ball. You could even do that, even in the absence of all that. You could even do that with your current character cards today. You could just say no back of the card, and you rework their playbooks a little bit. But you also, as far as the front of their card, you also really ideally only want like one, each character that isn't a captain. You pretty much only want them to have 1 character play. As by earlier, what do you find? Do you find that Black Templar dries glossy? Yes, contrast paints dry glossy, and Black Templar is one of the worst offenders there. So yes, it's something to be aware of. The only way to get it to dry to address that gloss is to shoot it down with a matte varnish at the end. Or you could use, there's some brush on anti-shine that you can use if you want to knock that down. This is Jason. Light sounds good. Having a version of the game to learn the mechanics while being accessible. Rules can't be exploited by a veteran player is good. More bare bones game. Yeah, I don't even know if it's more bare bones. because it's not really. It's still it's got fewer rules for sure, but I wouldn't say it's like it. I wouldn't say the main goal wasn't to strip down, more as to to keep the game very fluid. There were some games in the past that I really liked playing that were one of the things that I liked about them, what set them apart from other games was just how fluid they were. That you do an action, you move, and you do another action. It's like very fast, very fluid, and those were very fun miniature games because you're engaged in the game. You're not just sitting there like uh, you're not just sitting there like marking wounds down. Or in the case of 40K, you're not just sitting there crying and removing models. Oh man, he put a pipeline on me. And you're just removing sad models. But yeah, those are the basics. That is you guys are getting. That's the basic idea of what I would be trying to do with a Guild Ball Light as a thing. And if you want the truth, it would be cool if we had more Rip Malvo 1.5. It would be cool if it got more people to play regular Guild Ball. But I'm going to share a little secret with you guys, okay? Okay, because I'm not some saint. I'm not trying to just like make life better for all of humankind. Okay? What this really comes down to, and I'm just going to share it with you because I'm all about full disclosure here. I did this wrong. What it really comes down to is I want to be able to use these. Okay? It's really I want to use my cool Guild Ball template stuff. I don't want it to just go away and die. I have a lot of kit built around Guild Ball, guys. You don't want to. I'm not ready to just throw it in my closet. We got to play some stuff that uses that. Oh man, yeah. Okay, so I'm not here to. Yeah, I'm no altruist. I want to use my stuff. Okay, so and the reason why why I like Chibi so much is because I got closets full of Chibi. Okay, just have tons of it, tons of it. That's it. Why not take 2 dead games and make 1 new game out of it? Right? Full disclosure, I'm just being transparent. You can judge me if you want. I still think it's cool, right? I still think it would be cool to put these down, use those cool templates, kick a ball around, have some casual fun. And then maybe 1 out of 5, maybe 1 out of 10 players would be like, hey man, I think I'm really good at this Guild Ball Light. I want to play the real thing, right? I've been playing Guild Ball Light for 4 or 5 months now. I think I'm ready to try the big leagues. Let's see. Little reunion there between Jason and Nelson. I'm up for trying it. Need more reps to get the mechanics down enough to not think about it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I gotta sit down and work it all out. If we were gonna try it, it would literally be playtesting. I would have to make like mock-up cards of teams that we would try. It wouldn't be too bad. Maybe I can work on that in the next week or two. and work up some mock-ups and that kind of thing. All right. But yeah, I just think games need to flow faster. They need to flow faster. There needs to be less working out, the actual details of every little thing that the character might be wearing, or that kind of thing. And abilities need to be very self-contained. An offensive ability and a defensive ability needs to be as succinct as possible. That way, both players can line up their respective things and resolve them in a super clean, fast manner. You want this part of the graph to be very, very short. In my opinion, you want this part to be very short so that this part gets bigger. And if these parts get shorter, that's also a really nice thing too. Cool. He agrees with the pie chart. All right. I'm glad. But I mean, in theory, that would mean if there were more games that existed like that, then I do think more people would play miniature games. That's just my opinion. I think that it's not just the difference between, say me and Nelson playing Guild Ball. It's not just that difference. It would be the difference between, somebody that's only playing RPGs or board games for their evening and going, I really want to try miniature games, but I don't have time to paint hundreds of miniatures. I'm not going to invest hundreds of dollars and buy cases of miniatures and boatloads of terrain and that kind of thing. If there were better, small gateway games for miniature gaming, then yeah, eventually you could have people that do move into, the full-scale war games. But you would have a much broader audience at the end. At the end of the day, you'd have a lot more people. It'd be like, well, that's cool. Like, everybody loves to walk up to us when we're playing miniature games in public, and they want to know what we're doing, and they love the idea of it. But what do you always hear? Inevitably, what do you always hear from people that are transfixed simultaneously by your miniature game, but also deeply intimidated? Oh, I don't have time for that. I could never do that. I don't have the patience for that, right? Everybody in this chat has heard that. Everybody who has ever gamed with me in public and had somebody walk up to us and look at our game and go, wow, that looks really cool, guys. If you actually were to stop each and every one of them and ask them, hey, what do you think? Well, would you give it a shot? Almost invariably, they would say, oh, I just don't have the time. That just looks so intricate. It just looks so complicated. I don't think I could understand something so complex, something so intricate. But if you told them, hey man, game lasts like 30 minutes and you just need 4 models, right? That would be a different story, right? Because they would see the game go by and they would see it resolve fast, and maybe you had something there. I don't know. Yeah, what Jason's talking about is the flaw with Batman 2nd Edition. It was just so crunchy, and, to resolve things, it's like, okay, it's time. Pile up your dice. Here we go. How far are you going to move? Okay, how many dice did you spend? Okay, I'm going to attack you here. Okay, I've got this keyword, that keyword. Okay, look up your keywords. Oh, wait, what does a gas weapon do? It's a weapon of gas. Oh, crap. I don't even know what that means. That's what... What we're talking about is a flaw with miniature games in general. And I can't even call it a flaw, because it's that level of minutia, it's this level, and it's this attention to detail that drew us to this hobby in the first place. But we have to make a decision here. Like, in order for our hobby to survive, there does need to be an influx of people coming into play. And the very things that we love about the games that we play are often the very obstacles that prevent new people from coming in and playing those games. So we have to be creative about, the games that we offer. And then as the veterans of this hobby, we have to understand that these things need to exist in order for our hobby to survive. I always talk massive trash on 40K. Always talk a massive load of trash on 40K. But I also have to admit that if 40K doesn't survive, I don't survive. And I remember being on this channel, on this feed, I want to say 7-8 years ago, being on this feed, being so angry at that argument people would make. If 40K does poorly, then we all do poorly, right? And I used to get so mad because I'd be like, I can't dispute your logic. I can't dispute your fact. I just wish it didn't have to be that, right? I wish that as a hobby that we offered enough of a diverse experience of gaming such that 40K doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all of our existence. But the gaming community proved me wrong. They've proved me that that's what they want ultimately. They want 40K, right? They spoke with their wallets. They don't want to leave 40K to play other games. They want that 41st millennium bullshit that I don't really like. They want that. I'm sorry, but they want that. That's what they want. I have to, you have to respect that. They've seen Malifaux. They've seen these other games. They may even like these other games on surface, but they're all afraid to leave the pool together, right? They're all afraid to jump outside of the pond together. And for good reason. Look at what just happened to Guild Ball. Their own creators killed their own game, right? Is that ever going to happen with 40K? No. 40K, they're just going to keep charging more and more money because you will just keep continuing to pay it and pay it. So, the initial hook for miniatures is the fluff storyline, 40K, Star Wars Infinity. The game mechanics, what keep players for a few games. The high ceiling is what entrenches a veteran game. Yeah, absolutely right. Spot on. Absolutely right. But there needs to be there needs to be an accessible and diverse, and I don't mean diverse as in diversity higher, I mean diverse as in varied. There needs to be enough of those experiences floating around in the, God, I hate this terminology, but the hobby space. There needs to be enough of that floating around and accessible to people in order to keep the wide variety of experiences alive. I want a ton of models of a beautiful table, pirate, sci-fi, medieval, or whatever. Let's roll some dice. See? I mean, there's definitely players who they make different value judgments than I make, right? It's like, okay, I'll be like, I really only want a handful of minis because I want to be able to get those on the board quickly and I want to play lots and lots of repetitive games. But there are plenty of hobbyists that are like, I'm willing to paint hundreds of models for this army and play it twice a year because what matters to me is that cinematic effect, and twice a year is really all I can expect to get as far as my time to physically get out and game, right? So my point is that those experiences need to all exist if you really want to have a healthy, thriving hobby full of people. Is that you need experiences for everybody, basically. but not you don't. But I disagree that you have to have everybody playing the same exact game. I would rather everybody play lots and lots of different games because that keeps all of these game systems very healthy. It keeps companies in competition with each other to make better value out of their products. Yada yada yada. You know what I'm getting at. But today we don't have that. You know, today 40K can walk, GW can walk into the room. They can say, we're gonna increase the price of our products by 25%. We're going to change the rules to something that you hate. We're not going to pay attention to game balance. We're not really going to listen to any sort of ideas for playtesting. You're going to play it. You're going to paint it. You're going to buy it from us, and you're going to like it. And everybody's like, okay. Because they don't want to leave the pool. They're afraid of leaving the pool. Because any other company could be like, oh, you like our game? Well, we don't want to do our game anymore. We're going to do Kickstarter. There you go. Buy our Kickstarter. What game? Guild what? Guild Ball? No. No one should play Guild Ball. You guys are jerks for playing it. Screw you and your community. Let's see. Changes for some people too. I was at my most competitive when I was with Warmahordes. Now I would still enjoy the hobby, but I want some good minis and fun game 40K. Yeah. You know, people are going to they're gonna find the experience that is the most accessible for them. So I used to take on airs like, 40K is a bad experience no matter what, no matter who plays it and that kind of thing. But I understand now that like my experience in miniature gaming is atypical, right? I just get in way more. I get in way more action. I get, I have, I have more immediate access to my hobby stuff. I get to do it all the time, basically, and most people do not. And most people do not live in a very dense community of densely populated community of people willing to play lots of different games. You know, a lot of people, the only game they got in town is 40K. Or, if you're very strapped for time and you can only play 3 games a year, those 3 games have to be 40K because that's the only game that you can guarantee to find a game. Right? But you have time accessible in other areas, so you can be painting that army, for the other 9 months of the year. I just wish it didn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? I wish that if the excuse was I only have, I could only play a game every month to 2 months. I wish it was, the only game in town is these 5 games instead of just 40K. That's what I'm getting at. All right. Well, we're getting somewhere with these. But there is some sort of, I guess, dreamer within me that this daydream that, we could turn miniature gaming into this way more accessible hobby for people so that they get the experience of painting a few miniatures and you know, they they enjoy that side of the hobby, and then you could get them into a game in a reasonable amount of time with not much, with not a lot of quote unquote homework, if that makes sense. You don't want to have, I don't want to give people homework. I don't want to be like, here's my 90-page introductory manual. Now come back in 3 weeks and we'll play a game of Infinity Code 1. I don't want it, I don't want that to be the thing. Although, for your standard miniature gamer, that's totally fine, right? 3 weeks is totally fine because they're going to be painting their, 15 models that they need over those 3 weeks. I'm just I'm just interested in offering a different experience. I would love the idea of the gaming night being, okay, I've got 4 hours to game. We could play, a game of Guild Ball Light. We could play a game of Guild Ball, and then to close off the night, we could play Batman 3rd Edition. Because you could feasibly do that in 4 hours. You could feasibly do that in 4 hours. And I would, for my money, that's what I would want. I understand that there's going to be people who be like, I only have 4 hours. I'm going to play my favorite game in the world, Warhammer 40K, and I'm going to play one game of it, and that's going to be my evening. That's fine. If you want, if that's your once a night, one night to do that every few months, and that's the game you can guarantee, yeah, okay, that's going to be your experience. But understand that that experience is not, limits the overall number of, we'll say, normies or outsiders that could have an introduction to the hobby. That's right. So I'm wanting to I'm wanting to just kind of broaden that experience out a little bit and turn it into, something a little more, I guess, general. Now, Batman game's still interested in that. Oh, it's a fantastic game. I mean, we're still really enjoying that game. We're gonna, right now, everybody's just sort of playing introductory games, but even our introductory games are at full points, and it's taking us longer than it should to finish full games, but once everybody's got a couple of games under their belt, like I'm confident now that if I play a game against Chris, who is our most experienced Batman gamer, I know he and I could be finished with a game in under an hour, which is awesome. Which is what we want. Where is my highlight color? I want board game accessible fast. Yep, definitely. Definitely. Hey, what's up, Isaac Smith? Damian Wayne is a model I want from that game. Yeah, you have to, Damian Wayne, you have to get with his demon brother. So it's part of a set in the current Night range. There's the old metal Damian Wayne, which I happen to have one that I have not built yet. Look at that price tag, $20. Look at that for that. That Damian Wayne is a terrible model. I don't really like it, but the new one is really cool. This edition definitely more fluid for all characters. To stand around and guard OP objectives. Yep. Yeah, I do feel like they improved 3rd edition Batman in a very good way. But I won't. I don't want to complain. Let's not. I've done enough complaining for one night. let's just leave it at that. It is a definite improvement over second edition. So I'm just going to chill here and let you guys give me some questions, comments, threats. It's all good. All good. You guys know how this feed goes. It's really interesting to me that, I mean, like I said, all this sort of reflection has really kind of highlighted to me just how fortunate I happen to be in the miniature gaming world. That that I'm still a married man with 2 kids, a full-time job, a very busy professional life. That I still have the luxury of not having to play 40K as my one and only, right? I can still round up people to play what game I want to play, and I can do that on a very regular basis, right? That is definitely atypical. That is extremely atypical. How many models do you paint in a session? Oh wait, how many models do you paint in a session, and how long is a session for you? Well, usually I paint. I guess it depends. I tend to do models in batches, so it depends on the the make of the models, like how complex the sculpts are, how complex the color schemes are. But I guess typically, and sessions tend to run about 2 to 3 hours. So based on these streams, because these streams usually run 2 to 3 hours, and I usually finish, we'll say, between 4 and 8 models after 2 sessions, right? A typical batch takes me about 2 sessions to do. So this is, for example, this is a small batch for me. This is a batch of 4 models. I'm usually working in about the 6 to 8 range, and I usually finish, like I said, in the second night, sometimes the third night, depending if there's a lot of build to be done or a lot of like extra steps, things that I need to account for. You live in the dream. Let's hope night models finish all the character team cards. Yeah, agree. Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I had my first kid, it was one of the major reasons why I thought I was going to quit gaming. Because I didn't think, I was like, when I had my first son, I didn't think I would have time to enjoy a hobby anymore. I think I would just be like a full-time dad. And I took a little bit of time off, but really all it did was it affected my my convention schedule. And that's also the same time I decided to take up commission painting really more full-time. So that helped cement the idea that I would continue to paint, and that in the most rudimentary sense, going out and playing the games was almost like marketing, right? It's almost like advertising. Like, okay, I'm going to play these games. We're going to enjoy playing these games together. But, for those of you who want your stuff painted, that play the games with me, I will pick up and paint your stuff. Right? So it all kind of lend to the same thing. Likewise with YouTube, you know, I have some online customers that reach out to me and like, hey, I watched you on YouTube. I want you to paint this. So I get stuff like that as well. So it turned out to be very synergistic, even though it wasn't, you know, 100% deliberate that that's what would happen. Let's see. For airbrush applications, do you thin down Turbo Dork color shift paints or find it drying out and clogging? So two different things. So if you're talking color shift paints, these can go straight into the airbrush. So these are they will go straight in, no problem there. Turbo Dork paints is my favorite one. Turbo Dork paints are I love doing this so that you guys can imply what the name is. Turbo Dork paints are thicker, so you are going to want to thin those if you're going to airbrush them. But yeah, you know, everything just sort of fell in place. The fact that I was a pretty prolific painter to begin with, and I've always, you know, played it painted. I've always done. It's always just been a habit, something that I wouldn't even bother, you know, showing up to game night without having painted what I intend to put down on the board that night. It just all kind of made in the end. It all just kind of made sense. I kind of want a darker color in there. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a little bit of wildwood. Right? I'm actually going to thin it a little bit. Let's do that. I just want to get a little bit more color down on her. All right, good night. Thanks for tuning in, man. Good discussion. Thank you. All right. Yeah, it is 11, so we're gonna wrap this up pretty quickly here. But I just want a little bit of shadow. Right in there. Help me define some stuff. But yeah, I really am interested in trying out this like super fluid version of Guild Ball. Super fluid, super casual version of Guild Ball. And if my idea is right, it should lead to a very fast game and very fast paced. So not just quick, but fast paced in terms of, you know, making decisions and executing your actions and all of that. So hopefully we'll have to try it out. Hopefully I can get one of you guys to try it out with me. One of you local guys. There's still minor details to be done on these, but let's push on and get them, you know, mostly ready. All right. But yeah, I really did like all of our discussion tonight. I thought it was super productive, and I hope you guys enjoyed, you know, kind of my take on what I would want to see in miniature games, and specifically, you know, what I might do to a game that I love so much, which is Guild Ball, in order to make a fast, accessible version of that game. I guess the next step is to mock up a couple of teams and kind of throw it on the board and kind of workshop it a bit, right? You know, for example, do you do a kickoff? I think you still do a kickoff, but you could also you could even just do like a throw in from the center of the board, right? And have models set up in their actual football positions, right? Does that help? Does that end up being really, good or bad long term? So what would you do with a character who just idles and doesn't move much? Would you ever have to designate a goalie? This game, I mean, there are goalie characters, so you could have characters, and that is one thing too, is to try to make characters play their positions a little bit more accurately. So you could have a goalie on your team. They would basically just modify the goal role, and they would be very, very hard to move. So yeah, you could have that one. I've never found goalies to be particularly fun, but yeah, you could do that. I forgot to mention there is a delay of game rule. So if one team holds the ball for 2 consecutive turns, and after the end of the second turn, they just lose possession of the ball. The ball gets thrown back in. That's to prevent super turtling. It shouldn't happen that much anyway on a 2x2 board, but I guess it would go in as a safeguard, and then if we find we don't need it, we get rid of the rule. Well, yeah, that is in my initial sketch. Because, you want the ball movement to be fluid and constant. You don't want it necessarily to just have this, gang brawl on one side of the board while the ball sits parked on the other side of the board and no one can get to it, right? That's a horrible game experience. Kind of. Yeah, kind of like a shot clock. I proposed a rule in Guild Ball, the proper Guild Ball ones, because they were talking about how do you prevent, ball stalling. I proposed a rule that you can, if the same model is holding the ball at the end of 2 activations, the opposing team can spend 3 momentum to call a delay of game and force a goal kick from their own goal. So you get the idea, right? For those of you who hopefully want to workshop this with me, the goal is you got to keep that ball moving and in play. There needs to be a lot of passing and a lot of advantages to passing or even just kicking. All right. Cool. Well, they're looking pretty good. We're gonna, like I said, there's a couple of minor details to do on them when all this stuff is dry. But that was a pretty short painting session. Well, we'll get back into it, and yeah, we got some Amazon models, which are pretty fun to paint. But yeah, we'll get back into it. Okay, guys, so we're gonna call it here. I'm glad you guys enjoyed tonight. I'll probably be painting one of my own projects next. Well, we'll see. I may have some more Batman stuff coming in to be painted. But other than that, we're gonna call it here. Hope you guys have a good night. Let me know if you have any questions or anything. Questions, comments, or threats. Other than that, we're going to call it here. Have a good night, everybody. Take care, and we will catch you on the next one.